Well, I think it's a victory for college baseball. I really do. I think it's unfortunate that a senior has to miss that, or any player, but I also think about a high school senior and what they're going to miss. But it's a victory for college baseball and the spring sports for sure. And the one thing that I recognize is the NCAA basically said, all right, here's the parameters. This is what you can and can't do. Now they've pushed it to us to decipher through it and figure it out. And I'm okay with that because I would rather be the one making those decisions and even some of those tough conversations as opposed to the NCAA telling us exactly what we can or can't do. So I'm pleased that they voted that direction. I think it gives us options. So what I've done is I started with our seniors working down and just kind of giving them the information as much as possible. We have 3 out of our 4 seniors. I think Donnie Diaz is probably going to move on. He's at an age and a time in his life where it's probably right and best for him to start working towards a career. And then the other 3 I've talked quite extensively with and just kind of giving them the different options of what's out there for them. And they're still, they're a little confused. When you take an Austin Todd, who's having a great year or had a great year. He's not on a full scholarship. He's going to graduate in May. All of them are going to graduate, but he's going to graduate in May. And now the question of if they only have 5 rounds, does he get drafted? If he doesn't get drafted in the top 5 rounds, is he interested in coming back, or is he going to sign a free agency? I need to have some hard answers from these guys before I start making other tough decisions. And there's going to be some. We have to have them. Right now, our roster, if everyone returned and all of our incoming came, we would have 49 players. Now, what we will receive is every senior that comes back will add to the roster slots or the total number. So we'll have, if 3 of the 4 come back, we'll have 38 on the roster to start with, as far as what we have to get down to going into the first game in spring of 21. So we still have that luxury of the fall. But I want to be as honest with our players as possible. So if we have some kids that aren't going to fit in for the simple fact that they may be the 15th arm or they're just not on the depth chart, we need to have a conversation so they can play baseball next year. If that's having an opportunity to transfer or having an opportunity to go to a JC and then continue to follow them. With the draft, you have some players that we're really looking forward to having that opportunity that aren't going to fall in that category. So now we have some hard decisions with them of, if you come back, what are we going to do with the scholarships to make it all work? You have 49 bodies potentially. I think we would truly start with probably the highest number being 45, 46. But with that, you still are at your 11.7, excluding the 3 seniors. So it's going to be challenging, but it's a challenging time. So whatever we decide is going to be the best thing for putting our program or our team back in the best situation for competition. Not necessarily, all of these pitchers, but we've got to make sure we have a good balance in our lineup. Roger.
Danny, go ahead.
David, those 3 seniors, excluding Donnie, spots if they want to come back, and is there a deadline, like a decision from them, or you can wait for the draft, or how? Is there a deadline for those 3?
There's got to be a deadline, but it's not going to be until the draft. And so I'm not going to make any drastic phone calls or decisions right now. I'll continue to communicate with the entire team, as will all of our coaches, but I'm not making that decision until I know that they've been given a fair chance to either come back or move on. And what I asked all 3 of them is, tell me the reasons why you would not come back. And if we can help you in those categories, then we will. And really what I want them to do is be totally educated of what their options are. I think our system in college baseball has become, if you're a junior and you have the capability of signing a pro contract, you should sign. And that's not the case. What I want to educate our kids about is, from the pro side, they're going to tell you, you need to be aware of your age because your clock is starting. And I get that from their perspective, but you could be a young player that's drafted, not perform for 2 or 3 years and get cut, or you can be an older player that performs and continues to advance. So I think that utilization of the age is a way of getting them to sign at times when maybe they shouldn't. Maybe their development will continue greater with us and they're playing for something, and maybe they fly through low A or start in high A or potentially even double A. So those decisions are made kind of prematurely for me. So I want them to understand, if I'm 22 now and I get out, now I'm going to go play pro ball at 23. So what? I mean, you have to understand that if you perform, you can make it to the big leagues at 26, 27. I mean, I would much rather have a guy pitching for me that's 27 that's good than that 25-year-old that we're still waiting on that to happen, waiting on that maturation. So I think that age piece gets overrated, but it gets overrated because it's in our system, and that's how they have always understood it. Now, I think if there's a big difference financially, now you have to consider that. But you still, if every player for us that signs a pro contract, I want them to sign because they think they can play in the big leagues, not because they want to go play pro ball for 2 years. If they're tired of Texas or tired of college baseball and they're ready to move on, I want them to move on. So all of them are different, and I think we approach every one of them individually.
David, just the kind of 2x4 to the head of all this when you're in the middle of a season and getting ready for, conference play right around the corner. What were the emotions you had to deal with you and your staff and your players, just that when it all became apparent that what you do for a living was going to be on pause?
It was devastating, to be honest with you, Roger. It really was, because, when we finish a season, then you're in a transitional 3-week period. And that 3-week period, you move into camps, you move into clinics, you move into recruiting. And so you don't stop working, you just change your direction. But everything starts getting back to normal in the middle of the summer. You get comfortable with that period. And then you move into fall ball. So you get excited about having your kids back on campus to kind of look at our skill set, start piecing the chemistry together. And then you move out of fall ball. Everything all year is set towards competing. And when we start, and we started very well, you want to keep that going. And when it's just basically the rug is just pulled away from you, you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do, you don't know I've never had one day off in my life in the spring that had something to do with relaxing. And so now every single day, the routine has changed. The new norm is, okay, so after I finish my coffee and watch the Today Show, what's next? So now we're looking at projects. We're looking at, let's go for the walk. Well, our kids are being affected at home the same way, and they're trying to figure out, what do I do? And so now we're getting very creative in the workouts. We're getting video back from them, a lot of communication, but you're still missing that piece, that team that we've all been a part of every single year. What we work so hard for, to go out and see who we are, to go out and grow and develop into the game and into becoming better men and just watching their growth. And now it's taken away from you. So it's definitely weird. I mean, my wife laughs at me because I was playing catch with the 2 8-year-olds in the front yard. And she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just playing catch." And she can hear me through the window coaching the kids. And that's what we do at this time of the year. And so it's completely different for all of us, and we're trying to adjust and just get through it, and hopefully our normalcy gets here quicker than not.
Dennis?
Dennis is not coming through.
I think I got it.
There you go.
Well, kind of piggybacking on what you were just talking about, with the little bit of connectivity you do have with your guys, what is your biggest role right now? Are you more counselor? Are you more problem solver? What is it for you right now?
I'll tell you, I picked up something from Eddie Reese back in the spring. We did some individual podcasts for each other, basically head coaches talking to head coaches and just bouncing ideas. And John Mitchell and this group set it up. And it was really cool because Eddie had talked about on Fridays, they actually sit down and they talk about something positive about each other, and then they go to dinner together. The swimmers do, and I'm like, that is really pretty cool. And so we had just started that in the clubhouse, and I told our players, I said, look, we're going to play a game. It's going to be a little different for us because it's something new. I said, what I want, you can say anything positive in the clubhouse about a coach, a support staff, anybody in the meeting, anybody in the room right now. And I said, I'll start. And I talked about 3 different kids. And then the goal was if someone speaks about you, then you now you kind of keep the chain going. And so now you pass the torch. And so we did that one time, and then our season ended. So I thought, I'm going to continue that on our group me. And so it's been really a great way to, at times, give some type of message with our team in preparation or challenge them, and then recognize someone. And then someone else do the same thing and recognize someone. And it's been somewhat, it's just been a good positive medication, I guess, where it's a little bit of a feel-good type feeling, but at the same time, it's all we have. And I want our guys to feel good about what we were doing, but also to be motivated that we're going to get this back and we're going to build off of this character that's in this group me. And so that, and then most of the announcements are done through our support staff. We all kind of have our roles. I'm not as good at telling our guys what they need to be doing with strength and conditioning. We pay Matt Couch to do that. So he constantly feeds that information. Katie constantly feeds the nutritional side. Drew handles a lot of the logistics and the academic side. So we all get the information, but our staff is so good at delivering the information to the team. So I kind of use different times for different types of messages and then try to recognize as many kids as we can. So that's really been our salvation up to this point to maintain our communication.
Danny?
David, would you expect there to be a lot of transfers this offseason, or is that one of those things where there's not going to be a lot of places for kids to go, even if they want to, if they look at their situation and see there's not a spot for them?
I didn't catch the end of that, but I do expect there to be transfers throughout the country. I think we're in pretty good shape, to be honest with you. If we truly start around 46, we've started every fall since I've been here somewhere between 41 and 44. So we're not that far from it. We have some developmental players in our program that may be eliminated because of just the absolute, just the space, the physical space and being able to coach them. And so we're going to have to make some movements. I think you could see a player that potentially comes off of money that is going to be interested in moving on. I think that's natural. We'll have those conversations if that comes up. But what I want is I want our players to have an opportunity to pitch or to play. And if it's not with us, I want to try to help them where they can develop, because it's really tough to develop in our game if you're not playing the games. You can only practice so much. You've got to pitch against live hitters. I mean, you got to see live pitching. That's why summer ball is so important for us. So, yeah, I do expect a lot of movement throughout the country, to be honest with you. And I think it's going to be even a trickle effect. If a player leaves us, I can't answer that because it's holding my computer up. Sorry, it's my prop. You got to deal with it. But I do feel like if a player leaves us and he goes somewhere else, then they're going to potentially bump someone from that team that is potentially going to bump someone to a D2 or a JC. So the trickle effect is going to be interesting. I think what's the next thing we're going to consider is there going to be a one-time transfer? And if they decide that there is a one-time transfer, then I think you'll see even more movement.
Raj?
David, with your guys who are deciding, I mean, baseball's under such a weird ruling because of the 3-year, the age eligibility. Guy like Pete Hansen, for instance. I mean, is it potential where we may only see him 1 year in a Texas uniform, even though he'll be a sophomore because of his age and the draft rules?
Hope not, but that's something that we will deal with. I would love to see Pete at least 2 more years, and it's unfortunate that he got cut off because he was actually moving to the Sunday start against New Mexico. That was our next move, and we had already talked to Coy. He understood it. He knew that he had to get better, and we were going to do some things with him mechanically. We were going to utilize him in short outings, let him gain some confidence back, and slide Pete in there because he earned it. And so I sure would like to see that kid around for a long time. He not only is great on the mound, but boy, he's a great teammate. He handles himself really well off the field. He takes care of business. So, he's been a great recruit, but also hope to see him here at least 2 more years.
Bob?
Coach, I'm just curious how much you obviously didn't get to see the season out or anything, but how much you really liked this team, where it was going, and I guess you can probably say y'all would have won the College World Series, right?
Well, we were on our way. There's no doubt. Honestly, and I've said it publicly, and I've said it to these guys, it's hard to really get a team right from top to bottom, from your support staff doing their jobs. But, I mean, this group was so much fun, and I think that's even made it harder. I talked to a couple of friends of mine that haven't had good starts, and it's kind of like, Coach, we kind of got a pass. And they understand that they didn't start well, and maybe they had some issues with their team. We had none, and we started well. And truly, out of the 3 games we lost, 2 of them we changed the lineup a little bit. We changed some arms because we're still trying to find out. So, I mean, realistically, we could have even been sitting 16-1, but I thought it was important enough to find out about some players as we move closer to conference play. But I don't know how many games we would have won because I think our league is so good this year, or would have been. But I know it was going to be a fun journey with this team for sure.
Yeah, David, just curious, when you were meeting with your team and as this was just kind of unfolding and everybody was still learning about it, how did you address those guys about the virus? I mean, I'm sure you had some student athletes that were, like a lot of people, anxious, maybe even scared a little bit about just kind of the uncertainty with that. And also a second one, I know we talk a lot about the headaches this ruling could present in terms of the blanket waiver for eligibility. Have you allowed yourself to dream a little bit about just how much talent you could potentially have on your campus if some of those guys return that normally would have gone, or if some of those freshmen that normally might have gone pro do end up showing up on campus?
Well, to answer your first question of the virus, really, I've pretty much left that up to the experts, and we've listened from a support staff, and just We've just relayed the information to our team based on once we cleared the building and had to head out. I don't think any of us felt like when we were hearing about the coronavirus a couple of months ago, where we really felt like that was, oh, that's across the world. That's not going to affect us. And it's devastating how this virus can actually shut the entire nation down and the entire world. So I think we've had to grow day to day to understand the significance of it. But I've really left that up to the experts to relay that information, and we've just supported that. Yeah, we could have some incredible talent in college baseball, and I think if you look at our team this year, we have 12 freshmen that have contributed in some way this year, and some seniors. So if you combine those two groups back, a little stronger, a little better skillful, a little better understanding of what they lost and how important it is to play that day to day, which we as coaches constantly talk about, be in the moment. Today is all that matters. Well, it hit us in the face. It was a reality. And so I think you're going to see a lot of excitement once we get back on the field. But that talent combined with the incoming talent could be really special. And I think we were seeing the beginning of it with this group. And gosh, I really think that this group is on the right path. And then not only on the field physically and with their skill set, but their mindsets are so good. I mean, they're tough-minded, they're team-orientated, they take care of their business, they like to hang around and do extra on their own. And so I think what you're always wanting from your program or your culture is to immediately bring that new group in. And I think this really expedites that new group where, well, that's how the coaches say we do it. And it's, there's not a lot of question and a lot of wasted time because they understand we know what we're talking about and that's what we're going to do. And they're either in or they're out. And we've got a lot of guys that are in right now, but I do think college baseball is going to really have a great talented 21.
Danny?
David, of the players on your roster right now, how many would you think would be in that target range, the first 5 rounds of the draft that you think may not be
our existing team?
Your existing team.
One.
Is that Bryce or?
Bryce Elder.
Okay. And then
secondly, I think that's the unfortunate piece as well, Danny, is because I think a couple others have, with time, could potentially work themselves back into or get into that top 5 round. So they're going to miss out on some of that potentially. I think if they do expand this to 10 rounds, you could probably see 2 to maybe 3 more kids of ours that fall in that category.
And secondly, is there anything that you still want cleared up by the NCAA that you're still confused about, would like a little bit more clarity on?
Well, our manual's this thick, so there's a lot of things I'm confused about. Regarding this, I think there's still a question of, we've talked about what's called a special fund, how we can utilize the special fund with our seniors. Whether or not, if we put them on additional money, do they become a counter? And then lastly, I think we have a question mark on JCs. If a JC player transfers in, does he also regain that year of eligibility? And I believe he does, but he has to go through a waiver process. So really, I think that's the only 3 questions that I have.
Are you worried about non-revenue sports besides football and basketball moving forward out of this crisis?
I think across the country I am. I'm going to trust CDC and our administration that we're somewhat protected. I feel like our preparation has been right, not now, but just in the past to handle this. We had talked about we do a budget meeting at the end of each year or at the beginning of a spring season, and we had discussed our 21 budget already, and it was our goal to just kind of make some very minor cuts throughout our programs. And so we have been reassured that to this point, that's where we still are. I think it's our individual responsibility to just not splurge. And I just talked to Coach Miller a while ago, and I said, I just can't see buying things right this next year that we don't need. And I think if everybody takes that approach, we'll be fine. But there's always that concern, we football is the driving force. We know that. So we need them. We need them to play, and we need them to do well. And, it is what it is.
Danny?
David, I'm kind of wondering how are your players handling this uncertainty, especially the ones that may be on that bubble for a spot playing time next year. Are they knowing this is going to be a process? Are they really anxious? How have they kind of handled this?
It's hard to say because they're all so different. I mean, I've talked to a handful of them at times. It's like we were at the deer lease or we were on a boat. I just hope that they're really, truly paying attention to the things that's happening nationwide and doing their piece there. I think they're very affected by it because of, their activity level has been cut in half or even more so. And it's testing their ability to be creative and find ways to get their work in. And that's a piece of, my motivation on our group me is to give them ideas to tap into their imagination, to do some things that a little bit outside of the box, because that's what we have to do right now. I just hope that they are. I haven't sensed any player that is going through any kind of major mental issues. We haven't heard any of that. We are concerned that we have some families that are able to continue to have an income and throughout the department, not just with baseball. And so I think that's our biggest concern, is making sure our families are being able to cover their bills and continue to live. And hopefully there's a way that we can help out without breaking any NCAA rules.